Welcome back. Uncle Deke's Workshop here. So I've had some requests about the Recovery Barge. Since this last sea trial, did some modifications to it. One is we shortened the recovery hooks on the front. The longer ones were too heavy and caused it to nose in. I think these will be just fine, and they will tighten down alright to support whatever, plus they're soft. Okay, then the other thing I did, the first time we tried it was on a 25-mile-an-hour windy day, and it really had a hard time tracking. So I got some regular modeling boards, birch boards about 3/8 inch square, and I beveled them on the front, and I soaked them in CA so that they're waterproof. Then I used CA to stick them on with because this is fiberglass and it seemed to stick well to them. It still won't cause any resistance if it gets into some moss or lily pads or something, I don't think, but it should be able to track a lot better. Okay, now let's look at some things that I've learned on setting this up with the variable pitch propellers. Right here, they work off of a full-size servo, and there's a rod that moves through the center of the motor and it changes the pitch on the propeller. Now this is how I steer it. More power to the left one and less power to the right one makes it steer to the right. More power to the right one and less power to the left one makes it steer to the left. Then I can reverse the pitch of the prop and make it go backwards, or I can make it spin around in its own axis. So let's power this up. Here's my battery box, and control box has the ESCs. There's two ESCs. They're not matched, but they're both 25 amp ESCs. The orange receiver, and a Y harness to run both ESCs off of one battery. And then I found out on the first sea trials that things in there tended to get hot, so I cut a little slot in the top of the box to let air get out, and the water doesn't seem to get in it. So there's really not much sitting in the bottom to get wet anyhow. So that kept everything cool. Here's my radio, the DX8. It's already turned on. Okay, let's plug it in. This lid snaps on pretty good. Now let's look at it. Okay. You can see how the propellers change. Okay, now this, let's say we're going straight ahead. This is a right turn. What happens, I'm running a constant RPM. I don't really use up to about half throttle. I have a change in the RPM, but at half, I'll show you here in a minute. I have the throttle cut off at half. It can't go anymore because it was overpowering the propellers. These two motors would just take this thing off if it had wings. So this is a right turn. What happens is the left propeller stays in its constant pitch, and the right one reverses. So that makes it turn right. That corner goes backwards, the other corner goes forwards, and it turns. Now here's a left turn, just the opposite. The right hand propeller stays stationary, and the left one goes backwards a little bit, and it turns to the left. Now let's say I want to go backwards. I just pull back on the stick and it goes back. Now let's look at this. I'll put my radio right here. Okay. With the right turn, you can see that one's going left and the other one is not moving. Now on the left one, The left one goes backwards and the other one stays stationary. Now let's pull back on the stick and they both go backwards. That's a reverse. Now if I want combinations thereof, I can do this. I mean, lots of... Now I've limited, there is no forward. I found out what the right pitch was. I don't need any more pitch, so I've limited the pitch to what it is right now. And how did I set that? This is another important thing. Okay, here's my pitch gauge. Okay, piece of foam that's cut at the right angle. I slide it in here and I've got the pitch for this propeller set just right. And this is my constant speed right here. I go over here and I get this one set the same way. You want them both set at the same pitch, otherwise you're going to be turning in circles one way or the other. And I found the right pitch for the boat, and it's limited. That's the most forward pitch that I can have. I have more rear pitch for steering and backing up, but I don't have any more pitch to go forward. I found that if I had any more pitch, it just nosed in. And it's not a speedboat, it's a work boat. Okay. Now let's look and see how I set these. I go to my servo setup. In the DX8. Okay, and I've got the throttle set at 103% up to halfway, and after that nothing. So if I'll show you. Now let me disconnect the battery so that nothing starts up here. If I push forward on the throttle stick, I'm good to this point. Let's see, I'm gonna do this. There we go. No. Okay. If I push forward on the throttle stick, it switches over to the nothing or 5% right here. So right here, I have at this point, that's my constant speed. It's really handy because more makes it nose in, so I limited it right there and nothing happens past that. It doesn't get any faster. So all I have to worry about is this much right here. Okay, now let's go back up and then go to the right aileron, which is my right turn. That's what I'm using to turn it with. Okay, I have 100% on the right side and 0% on the left side. I go to my left aileron and I reversed it. 100% on the left, 0 on the right. Okay, you got to limit these motors to turn one way or the other. If you don't, you have all kinds of weird things going on with these adjustable props. So somebody asked me how I set this up. That's basically all there is. You got throttle and right and left aileron and down on the elevator stick. That makes it go backwards. As if it were a flying wing with Elevons. That's critical. That's how I get this stick movement like this. It's set up with Elevons on the settings inside the radio. So all I have is throttle and elevator, and only up elevator and right and left aileron to steer it. So this is reverse, this is right, this is left, and then motors controlled to halfway so you don't overpower the motors. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Questions, suggestions? It seemed to work really, really well this way, and with that battery run a long time. If you like it, give me comments. If you don't, give me comments, and please subscribe.